Hello and welcome to the channel. This is a review of the new Toro TRX HD. The model that I have is the 28-inch with the 420cc engine on it. So let's get started. Down in the dirt. Okay, Toro makes this in two different versions. They make a 28 and a 32 inch. That's the only difference between the two, is the size of the auger housing. So whatever I talk about today also is going to apply to the 32 inch. All right, if you buy this unit from Home Depot or one of the other online stores, it's going to come to you in a crate. There's no assembly required. It's all put together for you. All you have to do is check your oil, put fuel in it, walk around it a little bit, make for sure that everything is put together correctly. Adjust your skid shoes so they have a little clearance underneath the scraper bar, and then it's ready to go. No time-consuming assembly required. If you get it from a dealer, he's going to take it off the crate for you, and he's going to make sure everything is ready to go. He's going to do it a once over, make sure everything's put together right. So either way, there's not a lot that there's nothing that you really have to do with this machine to get it ready to blow snow. All right, let's take a look at the dash first, and we'll go from there. The TRX is a commercial snowblower. So there are some things about it that are different than the residential Toro Power HD machines. And I'll go through those little differences as we move around. First off, there's a metal piece here to support the handles. It's not a metal dash. I see some people saying it's a metal dash. The dash itself is still the poly that Toro uses. It never breaks, doesn't crack, split, anything like that. There's also a metal piece along the back here, so it has quite a bit of support this way. It has nice big poly handles on it, designed to handle your gloves. The commercial units all come with hand warmers on them. This particular model uses trigger steering, so there's triggers here on both sides. I've been playing with this one a little bit, and I need to see if there's an adjustment on these triggers, because the way they're set right now, it's a real long stretch here to use them, and you have to pull them all the way up to here before it disengages. So I'm going to see if there's a way to adjust that or not. That's a little bit different than all the other trigger steers that I have here. The Cub Cadet in particular and the Husqvarna, those are real easy to pull, and you don't have to pull them very far. That's about the only negative that I found on this machine so far. And we'll continue on and talk about some other things. Toro redesigned the quick stick last year, so this is a lot heavier. It's metal reinforced inside, so there's no problems with this one. The old one over the years would tend to wear a little bit. I don't expect to see that at all with this machine. Again, Toro is a right-handed machine, so your traction unit hand lever is over here. Your snow thrower is over here. You can do it one-handedly. When you do it one-handedly, you take your right hand off. You can adjust your shifter, and you can adjust your quick shoot without any problems at all. Also, to adjust the tracks up and down, let's move this around. On Toro, to adjust the bucket height, in other words, on track drives, you can usually lift the bucket up for transport and stuff like that. You push down on this lever here, and you see it. It's a nice big lever. You push down, You can lock it up into transport and then push down on it again, release it, and it locks into the normal snowblowing mode. I have not been able to figure out if this has a float mode on it so that the front end goes with the contours of the ground. Right now, all I can find is the transport and the lock for keeping the front end on the ground. I'm going to find out for sure if that's the way this was designed or if there is a float mode. Most track drive snowblowers have a float so that if you're going up and down a sidewalk that slopes up and down a little bit, or if you're out in the doing a spot for turf for your dog or something like that, that the bucket just rides on the ground and it doesn't try to dig in on you. The transmission on this snow thrower is hydrostatic, so there's no gears. All you have to do is move this lever to go fast or slow or go into reverse. There's no neutral on it. You don't have to stop the machine to make a speed adjustment. That's really nice. It's really fast. Hydrostatic transmissions are expensive, but that is a big advantage for them. With the right-hand drive, you can reach over and adjust your speed forward and backwards, however you want to do it. All right, let's move around a little bit. To be able to see the snowblower, I think I'm going to have to close my garage door. It's a little bit too bright out. There, that works a lot better. Toro's handles are rectangular. They are approximately 1 inch by, probably close to 3 inches. So they're very solid, so when you go to move your snowblower, there's no give at all to them. They're going to hold up very well over the years. Everything is nice and solid with them. Down on the bottom, they do have some channel that they use to bolt up to the frame itself. Again, everything is nice and solid down there. Your chute clearing tool is tucked in nicely back here on the back side of the left-hand handle. The transmission housing, transmission case, whatever you want to call it, is pretty tall on a Toro. There's plenty of room inside to either put a trigger steering transmission, a hydrostatic transmission like this one, or an auto turn. I will do another video where we'll take a look inside this one, and I think we'll probably compare it to the 928, the auto turn, so you can see how simple both of these transmissions are inside. The hydrostatic transmission, all the steering and everything is internal to the transmission itself, so there's not a lot of stuff to wear out inside of the transmission case. We've talked about this chute quite a bit with the 928. This is the double jointed chute. It's an extended chute, so it gives plenty of, it holds the snow longer than with a regular chute, like on the Toro, the 828 version. And that allows this to hold the snow and keep it in a nice pattern so it throws a long, long ways. You can also tip it way down so you can put it right next to you. That's a big advantage with the two-piece chutes, is you can put this snow right alongside of you, whereas with most other chutes, you can only tip them over about this far. Let me see if I can get a notch there. About that far, so the snow, you can't get the snow quite as close to you if you're working in tight quarters. It's a very simple design that they use here. The cable is a larger industrial cable. and it's crimped on the end, and it's got a rubber boot on it to keep moisture out. It has a molded end to it, so everything is nice and solid. There's nothing to break here. Nice solid piece here, nice spring, the right size spring to handle this chute control. When we look inside the transmission, we're also going to look inside the belt cover for the drives, and also inside this cover, so you can see how this mechanically works. The Toro commercial units have a 2-belt impeller drive and a single belt that goes to the transmission. Toro residential models have a single belt for the impeller. And while I'm here, as you can see, changing the spark plug is easy. You can get your hand in there and get the boot off and change the spark plug when you're ready to do that. Let's talk about the tracks. I was expecting the tracks to be wider on the Toro, but now that I've seen them, I can see that they're the right size. There are 2 reasons why you want tracks on something. Number 1 is to give you traction. Number 2, to give you flotation. With snowblowers, we don't care about flotation. Flotation is for, like, if you're working in soft soils, if you're a farmer that's working in peat bottoms or sand, then you want a wide track. But the rest of the time, particularly with snow throwers, you want a track that's fairly narrow so it digs in and gets you down to the ground so you have plenty of traction to work around with. These tracks are going to work really well for working steep driveways, stuff like that. They look like they're about 5 inches wide. I didn't measure them. I don't have a tape measure here. They look like they're about 5 inches wide, so that's about the same width as their tire, so that'll work out really well. This snowblower is also what I call a high-speed track drive. Notice the large drive wheel on this. These transmissions that are in these machines are all basically the same gear ratio. So if you put a smaller tire on a machine, it's going to go slower. Put a bigger tire on a machine, it's going to go faster. Same way with tracks. If you put a smaller drive pinion, that's the red part here, if you put a smaller drive pinion on a machine, it's going to go slower. And in particular, like the Honda snow throwers, they have a very small drive pinion on them. So those snow throwers are slow compared to one like this with the larger ones. This one will move along just about as fast as you can walk, so that'll be plenty fast for you. The Aaron's Rapid Track will go faster, but for most of us, this is fine. The bogey wheels are a nice radius, so the track doesn't have to make too sharp of a bend, so it's going to give the track long life. I don't expect these to crack and break. These look like Toro's good plastic that they use. There is adjustments, so if the track does stretch over the years, you can stretch it back out again and keep it tight. Do I like this track drive? Yes. Toro's commercial units come with drift cutters, and they're very easy to use. Just loosen these 2 nuts and slide them up. There's no jockeying around where you got to turn them over and all that type of stuff. And then tighten them back down again. It's a captive nut, and you will need to use a wrench on it, but they'll stay in place that way. Also on the commercial units, you get a cast iron skid shoe. This skid shoe is considerably heavier duty than the steel ones. They wear a long time, and you can flip them over and get another 4 or 5 years out of them. If you're doing sidewalks, if you're doing miles of sidewalks, these are definitely the shoes to get. These shoes will also fit on the residential models. If you are working in areas that have pavers or high quality stamped concrete, that type of stuff, you can also put the poly shoes on these. And Toro's poly shoes are good. They're not cheap and they do wear, but they wear very well. While I'm here, let's look down inside the chute. Toro uses a hanging chute, and you're familiar with a hanging chute. The chute itself, actually, the bracket that holds it is up on the top. It doesn't ride on the bottom to wear out and bind. But Toro put a small piece of poly in here to keep this from rattling. So it's a little guide, and that way when you're sitting here idling, the chute is not sitting there rattling metal to metal. Most everybody is doing that nowadays. Husqvarna is the only one that still rattles. And it's a big chute. It's about 4 by 4 inches, the discharge there, maybe a little bigger, 4.5. So it has plenty of capacity. You're not going to have any problems at all with this machine plugging from heavy wet snow. The Toros just don't do that. And I do have a video out there of the 928 throwing slush. And you know, most snow blowers, when you go to use them on slush, they just kind of, the slush just kind of dribbles out. That the 928 will throw it 25 or 30 feet. And expect this one to do just as well. Especially with this larger motor on here, this is going to throw snow extremely well. All right, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on the auger and impeller assembly. I've covered it quite a bit with the video on the Toro PowerMax HD 928. Toro's commercial units use the same gear case and I believe the same impeller and the same auger assembly as the PowerMax HD units. Toro has it. This whole system is pretty much bulletproof. You just don't have any problems with it. You don't have a split case. You have a sealed bottom case with a top cover on it so you don't get any oil leaks. It also uses a heavy-duty shaft going back to the impeller. There are 2 types of augers out there on the market. The open flight system and the closed flight system. The open flight system actually works the best. There's 2 things that the front auger does. Number 1 is it pulls the snow to the center and throws it into the impeller. Number 2, with the open flight augers, it also mixes the snow with air, so the snow actually becomes lighter and easier to throw. That's just the opposite of a snow loader. Some of the city municipalities have a outfit that kind of looks like a snowblower. In other words, it has an auger on the front and it throws the snow up and into trucks to haul it away. That system actually takes the air out of the snow and makes it much denser. And the reason for that is that way they can put more snow on a truck when they're hauling. This does just the opposite. This puts more air into the snow, which makes it lighter, so that you can throw it further, get it away from the snow thrower. Toro, again, does not have shear pins. There are 2 bolts, one here and one over on the other side, that hold the auger to the auger shaft, but those are grade 5 bolts. They will break, but you probably never ever break one. The Toro's gear case is tough enough that they feel they don't need shear bolts. Also, the bearings out here on the outside. The bearings on this one are nice, heavy-duty bearing assemblies. You won't ever have any problems with them breaking. Let's see if I can move in a little bit closer to see the impeller back there. If you notice, there's a lot of clearance around this impeller. The reason for that is Toro's patented anti-clog system, or we call it ACS. This whole big area in here, snow gets thrown into by the impeller, and if there's more snow than what the impeller can get thrown out of the chute, it rotates up around, comes back through here, gets blown back into the center. This piece right here makes the snow come back into the center of the machine. What that does for you is this snowblower doesn't clog up, and it handles snow a lot better because you can keep your engine RPM up on your impeller, so it'll throw it consistently and it'll throw it further and it doesn't clog up. This is Toro's patented system. Nobody else has got anything like it. They use a cupped paddle, and even on the commercial units here, they only need 3 paddles to give you a high capacity machine. I'm really impressed with how far these things throw snow. The residential models with the 8, 9, and 10 horse motors on them will throw snow 45 feet or more. The commercial models here with the 12 and 14 horse motors on them will throw snow 60 feet or better. Toro uses an adjustable scraper bar. So if you are one of those guys who has to run your scraper bar right on the ground and it starts wearing over time, there is almost a 1/2 inch of movement in this scraper bar, so you can drop it down and get more wear out of it over the years. I don't recommend doing that most of the time. I would rather see you put about a 1/4 inch gap underneath your scraper bar and use your skid shoes. That way you don't wear out your scraper bar and you won't catch on cement sticking up and stuff like that. If you are doing gravel, set your skid shoes to about 3/8 of an inch, and that way you won't dig the gravel up either. Toro's front augers, one of the little unique things that make the Toro work as well as it does is there's little pieces here that angle out here and on the brackets. So any snow that gets stuck on the auger itself, and sometimes that happens when you're really working with the wet, sticky stuff, the spinning auger will break that off so you don't get any plugging at all in here. If you watch people with some of the other brands, particularly the Cub Cadet 2X30 HP and the older models with the 6 auger flights in it, a lot of times if you're running in heavy wet snow, those actually clog up into a big cylinder. Well, these don't do that. This is one of the better designs out there on the market. Let's see. Let's move around. When Toro came out with this new design snowblower, they moved the light off the dash down to here. This is an LED, and it's really bright. It'll give you plenty of light to see what's going on in front of you. Electric start, of course. Plug it in here. Press this to start it with. The oil drain is here, and it's a pipe with a flat on it, so you can get this oil out. I recommend getting a piece of tubing or something like that to stick over this so your oil drains down into your bucket. Nowadays, when you take it into a dealer, they don't drain the oil, they suck it out from the top. So that doesn't get used very much anymore. A couple more things to talk about. Let's talk about the engine a little bit. Toro has a decent sized muffler on their engines. This is a 420cc commercial block, so it's going to give you long life. The fuel capacity on it is 3 quarts, so you're going to get well over an hour run time on a tank of fuel. Of course, here's your dipstick, and it has an actual dipstick on it, and a little spot down here on the bottom for high and low for your oil. Let's move this around again, and we'll talk, and the last thing we'll do is talk about the engine and the cables and stuff like that. All right, we talked about the electric start. Toro has a fuel shut off here. Flat is shut off, is running. That is shut off. Toro also has a throttle, choke, safety key, and primer bulb. So you can, if you're just going to turn your machine off and you're not going to start for a while, all you have to do is move the throttle to the stop position and it'll turn off. When you go to start it, make sure you run it, pull it over here to rabbit to the high speed. Push your primer bulb 2, 3, 4 times. Make sure you have your finger over this hole again, because if you don't, the primer bulb won't work for you. If you have to, and I suggest taking your, if you've got gloved hands, take your glove off and do it so you get a good seal. Make sure that your safety key is in. Push your choke all the way over. Give it a pull or 2. And if you notice, I didn't have to pull it very fast. In other words, these have a compression release on them, so they're fairly easy to start. There's not a lot of force that you have to do, and you don't have to pull them really hard. All you have to do is just basically get them rolling good, and they'll fire off. So I'm finding that the Toro engines will start on the second pull just about all the time. All right, what else we need to talk about? We need to talk about cables. There's only a couple of brands that really make good high quality cables and put them on these snow throwers. And it really amounts to you get what you pay for. On a Toro, all of the belt tension adjustments that you do is done on the cables right down here. And what you're looking for is, you're looking for these to be loose but not sloppy with the handles up, and then when you press down on the handle, it's going to pull the lever up and that spring is going to stretch, and everything only moves about 1/4 of an inch or so. If you let go on it, if the spring doesn't expand, then you can adjust this up here to make it shorter or tighter, whatever you need to do. Works the same way over on the drive lever. You pull on the spring and the spring expands. You can see that everything moves just a little bit. Another nice thing, the cables they all have the molded ferrules on the end of them. They're nice and big and solid. The cables themselves are coated, and I'm guessing stainless steel inside. Even these connectors here, these are welded right to the cable. So these cables are going to last you a long time. The locking mechanism for the tracks is all decent sized metal. Push down. Spring is a good size. Looks like a pretty simple system. A lock for regular running. Looks like there's a lock there where you can pick the tracks up, and the tracks, all the pressure will go to the back of the tracks, but I can't seem to get that to work as It's probably me, not the machine. Then you have a transport position, and then you also have an inspection position. So it does come up off the ground about 5-6 inches. There's not much in the operator's manual to talk about this, so I'm running on my experience, not necessarily on my expertise here. So I do like this mechanism for this 3-point track better than some of the other mechanisms that are out there, particularly the old Husqvarnas. Those are just a pain to use. Some of the other systems use a gas strut instead of these notches to so you can infinitely adjust the height of the front here. I'm not a big fan of the gas struts. The small ones that you need to do this with, they don't last a long time. In other words, every couple of years you're going to be changing them out. And I know the one on the Husqvarna is not a real easy job. You probably want your mechanic to do it if that one would go bad. I haven't spent a whole lot of time with the Honda to see how easy that strut is to replace. But these are this is a simple system here. It's going to work, and it's going to work well. Okay, that's it for the walk around. Let's do a little summary. This is the Toro Power Tracks. It has a 420cc engine on it, hydrostatic drive. This model is 28-inch. It also comes in a 32-inch model. It uses a 3-point track drive. I like the track drive. It's not very wide. It'll have plenty of traction out there on the snow. Toro went with the tried and true mechanical linkages for the track, so it's going to wear well. It's going to hold up for you. You're not going to have any problems with it. Toros work very well on heavy wet snow. This is one of the best snow blowers on the market. You do get what you pay for. In this instance, in other words, you get heavy duty cables, you get a good motor, you get the good Toro engineering that goes along with it. So I am going to do another video that looks at the inside of the machine. I'm going to take a look in the belt area. We're also going to tip it up on its nose, take a look at the transmission, and we're going to take a look at the gearing and how the chute works. Let me know what you think of this snowblower down in the comments below. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them there. If you like this video, please like it. If you'd like to see more videos like this, and I do have more coming, please subscribe. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.